Hey friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. Today we're going to give you an update on the deck boxes that I trimmed maybe a month ago, and to just show you how beautiful they are. I know we were here just like a week or so ago, and even then I was like, I'm not sure if I should show it to you yet because it's not at its full potential. Well, guess what? We are at their full potential, so we are going to give you an update on that and then kind of give you a whole kind of big picture of the patio as a whole, because end of August and everything is just popping and looks beautiful back here. Yes, there are some areas that need a little TLC, or they're showing the wears and tears of the end of August. It is all good. As a whole, this space looks amazing. So let's just kind of review over what happened. And the sun was behind clouds. It's been cloudy all day and now it's starting to peek out. So just forgive us if we have to bear with the sun a little bit. These are raised boxes, planters on top of the deck. This is Trex, so this is not like traditional wood that's going to rot. We did this a couple of years ago. My dad built these boxes for us. They are freestanding on top of the deck here, and they're probably, I don't know, they're 3 boards tall and about maybe a foot wide, and they are filled with gorgeous flowering annuals. I had the most fun every year kind of designing and putting these things together. Flashback, a month ago, these babies were in need of a little attention. So I took my hedge trimmers. I know that I gave some of you heart attacks. I took my hedge trimmers and I came through and completely cut back all of these plants in here. I was not gentle, I was not tender, I was not merciful. I just cut them back. I have fed them 3 times with Proven Winners water-soluble fertilizer since then. I try to do it every week. I think maybe I total missed a week in there. There you go. They are just phenomenal. The star of the show right now, without a doubt, is the new Super Bina from Proven Winners. It will be out next year. This is Super Bina Pink Cashmere, and this is one plant. So the plant that Jerry is showing you is one plant. Yes, my friends, she is a beautiful beast that is just magnificent. Really nice, soft, kind of that ombre effect with that pink. Has pinks and a little bit of whites in there. A very nice, soft color, very cool color. Just as far as like, it just is beautiful and soft and delicate. I guess delicate is the word that I am looking for here. Clearly the pollinators love it a ton. So pink cashmere available next year. It is a very vigorous verbena, and it does like to have consistent water and food. These deck boxes do get watered every day. I think this probably maybe like a 20 to 30 minute drip system that is in here. So without a doubt, the pink cashmere is the star of the show right now. Other plants that we have in here, and all of these plants have peaked at different times. So the bed is always evolving, always changing, and this looks very different than it did in the springtime because the Super Bina was not as vigorous as it is now. We also have in here, no random, just random order, nothing specific. The Sunstar Rose Pentas. I adore pentas because they do love the heat. This is a nice hot pink color. I thought it would be a nice contrast against the pink cashmere. You have those two kind of opposite ends of the spectrum of the pink. They are in here. There's three or 4 of those in here, and this one is definitely the one that is showing the best. We have Plum Dandy. Plum Dandy is a beautiful foliage only plant. This is nice burgundy with some hints of green in it. You can see like this over here. This is one plant, and it's just kind of has spread and is going to all the sides of the box. We have tons of the hummingbird moths in here. We have a swallowtail that keeps flitting around. I think I keep scaring her off. But that hummingbird moth right over there on the verbena, there's tons of them in here. So that's not a baby hummingbird. It is a moth, and they are very prolific on this flower bed today. So the Plum Dandy is in here. There's the Sunstar Penta. Probably my second favorite new introduction for next year, and not in any kind of order because I do adore this plant. It is the new petunia. This is Supertunia Saffron Finch. Earlier in the season, before the verbena really got going, Saffron Finch and Mini Vista White, I had them planted together. They were the star of the show. But this Saffron Finch is a beautiful, really nice, true yellow petunia, a darker center, and as it comes out, it lightens up and has a little bit of that darker veining in it. It is a... as far as the vigor goes, to try to help you kind of figure out what that is, it is not as vigorous as a Vista. It is not a Vista, but I would say it has a nice vigor to it. So the Saffron Finch and the Mini Vista White have paired beautifully together, and oh my gosh, both their vigor and their color together are a great combination. Really, really happy with how those have turned out. We also have in here some Sun Patience. And the Sun Patience really did not get much of a chance in here because the other plants were just going to town. I'm going to show you my other Sun Patience in the garden, and they're spectacular. These guys, and it's fine, right? Because at different seasons, they all kind of shined and did their thing. Got those in there. Let's see, plants that I am missing. We do have some Dichondra Silver Falls, which is that nice kind of trailing gray foliage plant. It's more on the back side of the boxes. They were nice and long until I trimmed them. I can see some coming out right here now. And then the begonias, the Selenia yellow begonias. They too were really shining when right after I trimmed this back. And they get a little bit covered up with the petunias. Now this is not probably the best specimen of a plant. We also have them in the hanging baskets and doing great. Could not be happier with this. Now, why did it do so well? One, I know that these annuals can be trimmed without a doubt. They all respond beautifully to being trimmed. Verbena and petunias definitely in that category, as is the plum dandy. It just shot off after I pruned it. Feeding them, whether it is with a water-soluble fertilizer like Proven Winners water-soluble fertilizer, and I'm glistening because the humidity is cranking right now. Probably, if you see it, yeah, it's just hot, y'all. Humid, sticky, very, 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 very sticky. So feeding them, whether it's that water-soluble fertilizer, when I pruned them back, I added more of the time-release fertilizer. So that way, every time it either rains or the irrigation comes on, it is getting fed. If you want to have big, beautiful flowers like this in these annuals, you have to feed your plants. Now, I will admit, I tend to be a lazy gardener sometimes. I do not want to be out here water-soluble fertilizing my flowers every week. I don't have time for it. It does not appeal to me. I do not enjoy it. There's too many flowers, and I'm just lazy in that aspect. So how do I make up for that? Well, I make up for that by, one, using that time-release fertilizer. So the Proven Winners, the granular, the shake and bake, as my mama calls it, we put that down. But the biggest asset, the biggest help in my garden this year, without a doubt, has been using high quality potting soil and compost. This year, we started with brand new soil in this box. It was completely emptied. We filled it up. Proven Winners potting soil. We used great quality compost. I've top dressed with compost, and that soil, your growing medium, is one of your best assets in producing gorgeous plants, because if it is rich and it has great nutrition in it, the nutrition is the plant's food, then your flowers are going to look like this, and you're not going to have to be out here watering like crazy on a regular basis. Fertilizing, you got to water. Fertilizing on a regular basis, I just don't have time for that. So there you go. I would rather spend my extra money in getting that high quality soil and compost as opposed to the time, the energy, and then the cost of the water-soluble fertilizer throughout the entire growing season. But yeah, so when I first planted this back in the spring, I said, now it may look like to some of you that I am being kind of sparse on my planting, because when I planted them, you absolutely could see lots of soil, and you can see where individual plants were. It did not start out like this. We are North Carolina, a zone 7B. We have a very long growing season, and the sooner I can get my annuals in the ground, the better they're going to be, because they get those good roots going before the heat hits. So this planter, I believe it was probably April when I planted it. As long as I maintain it as far as keeping the water on it and regular food, it will go through probably October. So massive, huge, long growing season. Could not be happier. Now up here, I'll let Jerry figure out what's the best angle as far as the light goes. When I planted the deck boxes, I also did these 2 hanging baskets with the Selenia yellow begonias. And these are, they're not new plants, but they're going to be added to the Proven Winners line this coming year, along with the other colors of in the Selenia family. The yellow, I think, has definitely been my favorite. I had yellow and apricot. The apricot was in a different location in the yard, and it has kind of melted in the heat. This gets a couple of hours of sun. It is not on irrigation, so I have to hand water it. There are 3 plants in each of these baskets. These baskets are probably like 14-inch in diameter up at the top. Got them from Kinsman Garden Company, and I've water soluble fertilized them maybe 1 time. Because to fertilize these, I have to get a ladder and climb up there and fertilize them. It's like, I just can't do it. So I just water them, and there's slow release fertilizer in there from Proven Winners, and then there you go. All right, now we're really going to melt now, because we're coming out here on the patio at 3:15 in the afternoon the last week of August. I promise the sun was not out when we decided to do this video. Okay, the star of the show in these beds, without a doubt, will be the Super Tunia Mini Vista White, and then the Sun Patience. I want to say this is blush pink. If I'm wrong, I'll throw the correct name up here. You were with us when Jerry and I were in this bed in the early spring. Jerry took the hedge trimmers and he really pruned. These are Sprinter boxwoods. He pruned those really well. You can see how nice they have flushed out. Look how strong and sturdy they are. Even with rain, they're not going to kind of split open and be wide. So they're gorgeous. And then the Sun Patience, I did plant 2 right beside each other, because this is the look that I wanted. They have done exactly what I wanted them to do. They have filled in between my Sprinter boxwoods and my white Shishi camellias. They filled it in, and they're kissing right. They're just peeking out above the brick on the porch. They're not blocking any kind of view, but as a whole, I mean, look at that, y'all. I am just so stinking happy with how this has turned out. Love it. Now, maintenance on this, and what have I done to this whole area? The shrubs are on irrigation because we have drip tubing going through there, but there's an emitter on each of the shrubs. It's not our brown tubing where it's like every 12 to 18 inches. So that is on the shrubs. The petunias have 0 irrigation. They are not on irrigation. Maybe once I have come through when I stand on the porch and I'll shoot some water on it, but not a ton. Again, we filled this whole bed with land and sea, top dressed with land and sea compost, made a huge difference. Of course, the time release fertilizer was in there as well. Right now, they absolutely could stand to be fed with the water-soluble fertilizer to keep them going strong. Now, this is Mini Vista White. Imagine if I had used like Super Tunia Vista Snowdrift. My gosh, we would have petunias out to, out to the fire pit. So even though these are minis, look how vigorous they are. I mean, just completely covered the path here, like the little seating wall that we could have here, and doing great. Questions on camellias, because if you're a southerner and you know camellias, when you hear that I have camellias planted in front of my porch that's maybe 2.5 feet tall, you're like, what are you doing? You're crazy. This is white Shishi camellia from Southern Living, and it is a dwarf petite camellia. It is a sasanqua, so that means it's going to bloom in the fall. I'm going to let Jerry show you all of the buds, though, that are on these plants. They are loaded, and I am hoping and praying we don't get early freezes, that it doesn't burn off the flowers. White Shishi is a petite one. It is going to be wider than it is tall. You can see that I've got some limbs here. This is all new growth this year. I'm going to leave it for now, but easily you could come in here and trim it back. I don't have any buds here because camellias bloom on old growth. I have buds down at the bottom, but not up here at the top. So I will, look at the swallowtails fussing with each other. So I can come in here and trim them really well. The sun patients do need more water, but when I water my hanging baskets, all of that comes off the porch and it hits the sun patients and they're doing really well. I guess they don't like each other. Or maybe that's the mating dance. I don't know about butterflies like that way. We also continued over here with the mini Vista Whites, and then right before we started filming, the clematis is blooming. So I have on each of these trellises, trellises are from Gardener's Supply. I put them behind my David Austin roses, and then I put the same clematis on each trellis to kind of tie it all in together. And goodness, isn't that beautiful? This has always been the strongest one. I don't know why, but out of the three, this has been the strongest performer as far as the clematis goes in this space. So the David Austins, they're hanging in there for the summertime. This is the Scepter d'Isle. No, it's not Scepter d'Isle. Oh shoot, y'all, I have it. Yeah, it is Scepter d'Isle. Look at me, I knew what I was talking about. A beautiful, nice, delicate pink. All of these roses they're different David Austin roses, but they are all pink. That's why I went with the same clematis on the trellis for all of them. But the Diamond Spire Gardenia from Southern Living is doing quite well. We have them on each side of the steps. The Diamond Spire is a nice columnar gardenia, and it's a completely different leaf. Like, it's a sweet little round, very, very glossy. Kind of reminds me like a thumbprint for some reason, like a little, I don't know, super cute, but it is taller than it is wide. I planted it here when we did the patio, several years ago, because this is my hottest spot probably on all of our property because of the wall, the brick, the way the sun hits. Just radiates heat, which really helps me in the winter time. So like the Arctic blast that came through at Christmas time, these did not miss a beat because they were nice and insulated and protected. It's a beautiful, really great gardenia. The one downside, if you know me in gardenias, is that it is a single bloom and not a double bloom. But they still smell just like the classic gardenia, so I can't be too upset about that. And they really do make a nice statement here, especially in the wintertime when all of the annuals are gone. So this area has turned out really well. The chiffons, people will ask about that. So we have this is the chiffon series of Rose of Sharon from Proven Winners. This is white chiffon. I kind of joke, oh, there was a spider web. I joke that this is not a Rose of Sharon, it is a Rose of Christine, because my friend Christine gave me this. And so, yeah, she's massive. In the years past, I would come in here and kind of trim her up a little bit. I haven't done that at all this year. You can tell my petunias probably are not getting enough sunlight right here, but that's all. I mean, that's just being really nitpicky at this point, right? The end of August in North Carolina, and I am not going to be upset with all these gorgeous flowers on this thing. Is just stunning. The chiffons tend to be set less seeds because of that double bloom. I have found a few seedlings underneath this plant in the wintertime, early springtime. It's not been a problem for me to pull those little seedlings, but I have had a couple of seedlings come from my white chiffon. And then we'll come over here. This is an area that needs a little bit, is showing some wear and tear. As far as the Terenia, this is the Catalina White Linen Terenia. This part is not on irrigation and it is dry, and you can tell that. There's some sparseness in here. And yes, I have got morning glories. Those of you, this is what blows my mind, y'all, is if you're in the South, if you know this, right? So there's actually people, there's actual gardeners in parts of the country that will plant morning glories. I find that phenomenal because for us, they are the most pesky weed ever because they just come over and they twine and vine all around our shrubs. They are everywhere. It's probably like For those of you that have problems with roses of Sharon setting seeds everywhere, you're like, oh my gosh, why are you doing that? Well, I probably feel the same way about you and your morning glories. So there you go for that. Now, this is the blue chiffon. So blue chiffon rose of Sharon, and it is in a standard form. It's kind of hard to tell that right now because everything's growing up, but it is in a tree form. I love the blue with those colors of the deck boxes behind it. And then we have Emily Bronte. This is a David Austin rose, and she, oh, smells delicious. So Emily Bronte, she loves this spot. She has not been moved. Some of them have been moved before, and yeah, so she's a beautiful beast as well. So there we go. We're raining rose petals. So that's just an update for you on, you know, pruning annuals. Don't be afraid to do it, y'all. I promise. It will make your plants so happy. And if you can do a little bit at a time, a little bit of trimming, a little bit of pruning, then you don't have to do the big severe pruning, right? Just a little bit keeps it maintained, keeps it all nice and tight and together. But even if you do have to do a major trim, don't worry about it. The plants will handle it. Give them good water, make sure they have plenty of food, and then they will bounce back in a couple of weeks and be even prettier and better than they ever were before. As always, we hope you have found this fun, informative, and inspirational. Y'all have a fantastic day. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.